Hi, lovelies. Happy midweek. It's me, Karen, and come on in. Welcome to my 15th session of Tea with Karen. Thank you so much for being here with me each and every week, giving up an hour of your time to spend not only with myself, but with my dearest friends, and engaging in hopefully purposeful and meaningful and inspiring conversation. I can't thank each and every one of you enough for bringing your energy, your light, and your inspiring rays of sunshine into my journey. You guys definitely have played a huge part in keeping my spirits up and inspiring me, and yeah, and also keeping my sanity intact. So thank you. I'm so excited to be bringing on some dear friends today. Really excited. But before I get to that, I owe you guys a huge apology because I completely forgot to talk about last week's Tea with Karen challenge. I was so excited to hop on with Rose Reynolds that I completely forgot. And it was a very important challenge, wearing a mask. Thank you to each and every one of you who participated and showed us your beautiful eyes and your beautiful masks, wearing them in solidarity to show our respect and our love for one another and how much we deeply care about each other and ourselves, protecting ourselves during these challenging times. So thank you. Two winners were drawn and have won my Ready for a Whole New World t-shirt. So yay! New challenge coming up very soon. What else? Oh, now, if you've missed any of the Tea with Karen sessions, you can just log on to www.teawithkaren.com and all the chat sessions are posted up there. All right, I'm just going to go straight into it. I'm so excited.
Gosh, I'm so red. What is going on here?
No, you look
I'm
lovely.
hot. I'm really hot right now.
This is the intro right here. We're going to hold this intro. As you can see, guys, I brought on my besties, my Legacies family, Olivia Liang, and we've got Ben Levin and Elijah B.
Hey.
Moore. I mean, talk about having a cup of tea with some of my favorite people. A witch, a very powerful witch. Don't mess with her. Yes. Yeah. And then you've got a quite a dapper-looking werewolf.
You didn't know werewolves sip tea and coffees and things
I
like that, but they do.
And then you've got the sweetest and the best penultimate fairy.
Penultimate?
Yeah.
I'm the second to last fairy?
No. Oh, was that the wrong word?
I always forget what penultimate means, and I think that's
not right.
Penultimate is before the
wrong?
before. Hey, but if you include that,
sounds so much bigger than ultimate.
It does.
Did I get that wrong?
But if you include that, then people are gonna think it's like a spoiler or an illusion.
Oh, no.
Like, oh, there's one more fairy.
Do this whole thing again.
Or we just leave this in and we just say, hey,
I'm so sweaty,
guys. You know what?
You learn a new word.
I'm not a host. I should not quit my day job. All right, they're here. The Legacies.
Hey,
family.
you're doing great.
You love them, and I'm so happy to see you guys. I've missed you.
Karen,
so
thanks for having us here.
So much.
It was so good. Such good timing.
So much.
How have you guys been? I'm just like smiling. My cheeks are sore already just from smiling so much to seeing you guys.
No, mine are so. I just watched Hamilton for the second time this weekend, and so I've been smiling all day.
I've entered into a new Hamilton dimension. I'm watching high school productions of Hamilton. I'm watching interviews from 2017 of Hamilton. Like, I'm in it. And every moment that I'm not talking to somebody, Hamilton is playing in my head. I can't stop. I wake up with it in my head and I go to sleep with it in my head.
Wow, you guys are hardcore.
Have you guys seen it live on stage? Any of you?
I did. I saw the touring cast when it came to North Carolina and last year, I guess, and it was amazing.
I mean, if I saw it live and I had known, then meeting Chris Lee at Legacies would have killed me. I would have been like, I'm so sorry, you were Lafayette. And then I would have fangirled. So I'm glad I didn't see it because I would not have been able to keep my cool around Chris.
So I think he's the one that told me that. And after he told me that, Quincy and I, for a few days, would just, whenever he walked up, we'd be like, you simply must meet Thomas. And he's like, he's heard
Get away
all
from
of
me.
those kind of jokes before. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm glad there's one more of us in.
I
yeah.
saw the Broadway production. I was doing my Gallivant press tour with Tim Omundson, and we were in New York, and Timmy was like, we have to go see it. So we managed to get these seats to go see Lin-Manuel. We saw the original cast, and it was stupendous. I think at the end of it, we were so overwhelmed with emotion and so inspired and could not believe what we just saw, trying to take it all in, that I'm so looking forward to now watching it on TV again. I just have to watch it a few times because
it's so cool to see it on TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
No, I saw it 2 years ago in New York, and it was so much clearer to see it on the TV just now. Like that was really like, there were parts that I didn't quite get when I first saw it, and now I feel like I filled that in.
Right,
And then
because
funny
there's
side
so
note,
many words.
I auditioned for the first reading of it in like 10
Did
years
you?
ago in New York. Yeah, in front of Lin Miranda.
Wow.
That's just it's such a great show that I'm like still proud of, not
Of
getting
being
that.
part of the process.
What does he smell like, Lin-Manuel Miranda?
Man, I
imagine
wish
he
I
smells
could
great.
remember. It must have been lavender infused with something.
That
He
sounds
was
like a
great,
good,
yeah.
that sounds like a good tea. What teas are you drinking?
Ooh.
I'm drinking coffee. Is that okay? Is that part of?
You're going to impress Carl, because Carl
We have to-
loves to come in and say,
Nope.
no, it's coffee with
It's-
Carl, not tea with Karen.
I
I
have
was gonna
coffee
say
as
you're
well.
on the wrong show.
You have coffee too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on.
Liv,
I just.
what about
Well,
all those
if I'm
times
gonna-
we've been in?
If I'm going to have tea, I want it made by Karen. I don't want to do it myself because it
So-
doesn't taste the same.
I have an
Good answer,
8
Olivia. Good answer.
Yeah, good save there. I have a 8-minute long video saved on my phone of I think the first day I met Karen on set, and her and Kim, one of the production managers, were walking through a hallway and saw me and were like, "Hey, Karen's gonna show me how to make some tea. You want to join?" I was like, "Sure." And so I have this video of Karen walking me through how to make tea, so I can just consult that whenever I need help.
We really did have tea time on set with Karen.
Yeah.
But
Karen's the real deal.
I taught you guys well, though, so
Yes.
you guys know how to make good tea.
Exactly.
Yes.
But I
Hot
do love
water,
coffee. I do
a
love-
nice black.
Mhm.
You have to press the tea bag against
Show it some love.
show it some
Yeah.
love, give it a hug,
Mhm.
and then some condensed milk,
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
and then
Evaporated.
Quick question: Is it appropriate to squeeze the tea bag at the end to get the final steepage, or is that something that's not respected in the tea community?
Well, I don't know. I'm not a tea snob, I don't think.
From what I'm to understand, that's
That was hard
a
to say.
torn subject. Some
Yes.
people say you should get as much of it out, but others say that's where the most bitter stuff is right there at the end.
If you
So if you
leave it
don't-
too long, yeah,
Yeah.
you don't want to leave it too
Right.
long. Like nothing more than it depends on your tea, but nothing more than 3 minutes. It should be definitely. I find the
What?
sweet spot is about 2 minutes to 2.5. Oh yeah, then
I
you
do
get the
5.
full-bodied flavor. I don't know why I did that.
I heard-
but
steeping
Wow.
green tea for a really, really long time gives it metabolic powers, and you can, shed the weight off. So I'm
Yeah.
I'll steep green
Well,
tea for
they-
5 hours.
like you have to worry about that at all, love. But I see you're right. They always say if you have tea or caffeine before you do a workout, then yeah, look at you.
No, I'm just no.
So guys,
um,
how's quarantine life been for you?
Who wants
who
to
wants
start?
to feel that first? Yeah.
Liv,
I'll
you
start.
Live, yeah.
I've been watching a lot of Survivor.
And what
That's
are
it.
you
Full
learning
stop.
from? Do you like Sir?
I mean-
It's a good show.
Okay, I'm gonna just shout out that you can't write drama like that. You can't write characters like that. It's insane. And if you love board games and if you love just strategy and things like that, and then you also love the drama of trashy TV, I mean, this is the show for you. My favorite season is called Cook Islands, and it starts off as a season called Race Wars, where they literally split people up into groups, tribes by their race. So there was the African American tribe, the Caucasian tribe, the Asian American tribe, and then the Latino tribe. And you very quickly see that falls apart. People are like, why are we segregated? And then it comes together, and it just becomes a really beautiful story about like just diversity and inclusion. So good. And then
So you're telling me Survivor's... Sorry.
Yeah, no, tell me. Ask.
No, Survivor, you're saying, is a cutting edge show? Like, it is something that is...
Absolutely.
Really? I didn't know this.
You know,
100%.
you know what my favorite fun trivia fact about Survivor is that Survivor has seen more successful marriages come from it than The Bachelor or The Bachelorette combined.
Mm-hmm. Which I'm also part of that nation. What can I say? I love reality TV.
You're part of The Bachelor. I thought you meant you were part of the nation.
I'm part of the Survivor nation of successful Survivor couples. I wish, because I got some crushes on some Survivors. However, I've been watching old seasons, so I realize now they're like 45 years old, and I maybe shouldn't crush on them, but that's fine.
So Survivor has gotten you through this time.
Yes, I smashed 8 seasons.
Oh my gosh, all 8 seasons. That's amazing.
There's 40 seasons.
Wow, Olivia. Jeez. Good for
Ben,
you.
What about you, Ben? What have you
What
been
about
up
me?
to,
Well,
you just got a new dog, right?
I got a dog.
Doggo.
And I can't show him to you because which is
we lost you. Why
we lost you for a second.
We lost you. Can we pause that again and just go and do that again?
Yes.
Love?
Am I back?
Okay. Yeah, you're back.
Okay, am I here?
Start
All right.
from the top.
Yeah, me and my fiance Caroline, who's passing by right now, we got a puppy named Miro. He's a 6-month-old. What's he again?
Is he a Shiba?
Half lab. We don't know. Could be Shiba. Could be other. We don't know. He's a mix.
You can get a DNA test for him.
I know. I kind of want to get my DNA test first before he gets his, just because I think, I'm a human. I think humans should always get precedence over dogs. But Miro's, so that's been fun. I've never had a pet before in my life. So for me, that's taken up a lot of energy and time.
Oh yeah.
And also Caroline and I just moved. So I'm now in Silver Lake.
Ooh, we're close by, Ben.
Emma, are we?
Yeah.
You guys
cool.
are neighbors.
Right.
See you at an outdoor park 6 feet apart.
Yeah, I know. We got to do that.
No one's close to me.
No, I'm not. Sorry.
Have fun on
That's my gist.
Yeah.
Things
have fun on the
good.
West Coast.
Yeah. No, we've been good. It's like a very, obviously this is a consuming moment with all that's happening in the world. And I mean, I've been absorbing a lot of different content, and it's a sad time. It's not a very joyful time, but we're learning and protesting and being a part of this thing.
What about you, Elijah?
You're looking at it. I've been sitting in this chair. We moved to this apartment about a year. I think it was a year ago last month. Me and my roommate, and we're kind of out in the woods, so it's a nice spot to be quarantined in, because you can't go out and do anything, but you can go on walks, down a gravel road, or we have a lot of campfires and stuff. We got my neighbor got an outdoor projector and a projector screen that we hung on one of her walls. And so we've done, like, almost every weekend we've done an outdoor movie night, hooked up some speakers. And so on Friday we watched Hamilton. So having that outdoors on these big speakers was super cool. Other than that, a lot of like Ben, consuming media, watching a lot, trying to read a lot. Starting a podcast with my neighbor friend Emily, where we read books and watch movies. So that's just helped me read and watch more. But I find this time,
I've taken this whole year sort of as a sabbatical. And it's funny, when we change the way we perceive things, it immediately makes a difference in our mental health and our emotional well-being, which I talk a lot about on my Tea with Karens, because I think that's so important now, especially for a lot of you young people. Oh my God, that makes me feel so old.
Hey, you're not.
For you
I'm 47,
youngins
so
there. I'm not that old yet, Elijah. Okay, we're not there.
yeah,
yet.
so I'm older
Not
than
yet.
you.
And that's not old for those that are 47 watching. You have to go back. 47 is the new 37. 37 is the new 27. 27 is the new 17. Thing. I'm going with that.
I'm into it.
Sounded right.
But I feel like a lot of, especially, well, none of us have been through a pandemic.
No.
So much is happening right now too. The world is hurting, especially our Black brothers and sisters. And it's a lot to digest and take in, and sort of navigating through each day as it comes. I know I've been talking to a lot of my friends too that say that when they wake up in the morning, they get this sort of slight pang of anxiety because of the uncertainty of not knowing when this is all going to come to an end, or if it's more of trying to find a way of living with the circumstances that we're all in, and what we can do to try and keep ourselves motivated or do things that we didn't do before. I know I had piles, I'm going to put my hands up, I had piles of paperwork and admin that I have neglected for so long, and it's given me time to do it. I feel good having done it, but at the same time I'm like, this is so vomitous and boring to do. And I've Marie Kondoed the house.
Oh,
which
yes.
is great. Have any of you guys been doing that? I suppose
Yes,
you're moving too,
yes.
Ben.
Moving, just throwing so much away.
I mean, yeah, I feel like this is a good moment to purge, because you realize you don't, what do you really need? You have to figure out what it is you really have to keep. And yeah, I mean, it took our mind off things doing this move. I mean, it's stressful. Moving is stressful. But we're finally good. I can show you a little real quick though. We got this little wall here.
Ooh,
And,
I like the blue walls.
Yeah,
you're
it's cool. We took over
in.
my friend's. It's cool. It's really, we're on like the steepest hill in LA, so that's fun. We get really good.
Wow.
So you get perspective. That's what it gives you, perspective.
Yeah. But I feel like it has been hard to focus in this time because, it's like we have all this time, but yet there's this horrible cloud over everyone, and then of course the sickness. It's just, I don't know. I think it's pretty dark. I think it ebbs and flows. Some days I feel pretty good, and then some days I'm just pretty depressed about it.
I'm that exact same way.
But it's so,
we have to work to be better allies, be effective allies.
Yeah.
But it's so good that even having these conversations, like thank goodness, I always keep saying this, thank goodness it's not gone all apocalyptic, where we can even do a Zoom catch up together as friends. Right. And how comforting it is to know that no one's suffering through FOMO.
Very true.
Yeah.
And that we can be so open and honest with each other and really understand where each other are coming from, and sort of help each other, elevate each other through this, because life is like a marathon, is what I've often said, but especially now with everything that's happening, it's a lot to take in. And I think, thank goodness for the gift of friendship and tea.
Or coffee.
Or coffee.
Or coffee. Yes. Or coffee.
Couldn't do without it. Yeah. I feel like the silver lining is connecting with people. Yeah. I agree with that.
I mean, I've had all of my friends who have had quarantine birthdays, we've all talked about how these birthdays have actually been a lot more fulfilling. Not having one big party, but having, a couple friends reach out very intentionally and say, like, I want to go on a walk with you for your birthday, and we can really connect with each other. And so I feel like people are getting closer despite having to be far apart from each other. And we do have the perspective of what's important, and, our health is our wealth. and wanting to be good allies and things, and having those hard conversations. So I think I saw one, it was either a tweet or an Instagram, one of those inspirational quotes of, what if 2020 isn't canceled, but is what we needed as a world, you know, for everyone to stop and be forced to look within and around. And so I think I try to be an optimist and try to be positive. And I do have those days as well where it's like, oh, like, when is this going to end? And starting to feel over it or something. But then I'll snap back and say, no, this is good. It's good that we're having hard conversations. It's good that people who needed a break can get a break. Of course, it sucks that people who need to work aren't, and our government isn't the best, but just trying to find, you know, positive things in despite all this negativity.
I feel like there's an awakening happening, especially with defunding the police. I mean, that to me is like never seemed more viable, and people are learning and about allocating funds other places. And, you know, I do feel like there is this positive change that really could come. And I just hope we vote the horrors out of office. Yeah. So,
and that's, especially at the beginning of this, people were saying like, I can't wait for everything to get back to normal. And I'm like, I kind of hope it doesn't go back to the old normal. Like, let's again, hopefully change the world for a better through all this. Obviously, again, with, you know, all of the civil rights movements happening right now and defunding the police and Black Lives Matter and all of that aside, there is a pandemic going on as well, which is causing all of us to have kind of just a mental fatigue over everything. And so you put that on top of all these movements, and I can't imagine things going back to how they were, nor do I hope they do.
You can definitely see a profound shift in the energy to where things are going, and than ever before, more than ever. So that's the good news, but it is something that the work has to continue. You know, it can't stop. It needs to be a collective effort from each and every one of us. But even like us having these conversations openly now, I hope that inspires, you know, you guys who are watching now, to engage in these open conversations and feel comfortable to talk about your feelings. And especially with guys, I think it's great because guys, you know, I've talked about this with my other friends on the other tea sessions, that guys tend to, you know, keep more to themselves too. And I have some girlfriends too that keep to themselves. I think it's so important that we're able to have these open conversations in a safe space too, because it is about learning and unlearning. Yeah. And every day, a part of my day now is constantly reading and learning, following, you know, amplifying melanated voices. So following different platforms on all the social media platforms of people of color. And it's been so wonderful. I've been having such wonderful conversations with therapists to advocates to activists. I mean, it's been so wonderful getting to know them and promoting the good work that they've dedicated their whole lives to. And then there's a lot of unlearning to do as well, and reprogramming. But I feel like that you know, initially when this all happened and ignited, a lot of people were understandably upset and angry and hurting, but they were misdirecting the anger towards each other. And that's why a lot of people were afraid. So they were getting afraid they were afraid to speak. And when they wanted to do something, they just didn't know where to start. So I think it's so wonderful that now everyone, that energy is definitely shifted, where you're seeing people engaging in these important conversations, no matter how uncomfortable it is and squirmish. But everyone is very quick to say, I'm so sorry, I don't understand this. Please help me understand this. Or what am I missing here? What am I getting wrong? Or I'm sorry if I said that and that's not what I meant. But people are being patient with one another. And I think that's so important.
I loved, I think it was, I saw it yesterday on Twitter. I don't know when it was taken, but there was an older white male at a protest, and he was in a wheelchair. He had some camo on. I assume he was a vet. I don't know. but he held a Black Lives Matter sign and another sign that said, I'm sorry it took me so long. I had a lot to learn. And I was like, I love that.
It's
Agreed.
never too late.
Yeah.
It's never too
As
late.
opposed to
Never-
pretending like you've been an advocate this whole time. Like, no, obviously I do this. Addressing, saying like, no, I didn't think this way. You know, I used to be on the wrong side of history, and I was corrected.
Yeah, I feel like it's those gray areas, or not. That's not really gray, but it's admitting to things like that, or the microaggressions, or the sort of subtler forms of prejudice that are really important to also be involved than the obvious terror that is like white supremacy.
Right.
I think like it's so good to hear that, and you know, you want to broaden this conversation, and that's I think that's really, it is amazing to see so much content around that. And you know, it sounds like, is Black Lives Matter now like the biggest movement we've ever seen?
Yeah.
I feel like I just saw that. Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I agree, Karen. I hope this is not I hope this is a lifelong commitment. So it's important to not also burn out on it, and to learn, you know, to sort of steadily stay involved. We just watched Malcolm X for the first time, and I knew a lot about Malcolm X, but man, that movie blew my mind just now. I don't know if anyone out there's not seen it, but go watch Denzel do his thing, because that movie blew my mind.
And then also 13th.
Oh, 13.
So yes, of course.
Yep. I watched that with my mom, and you know, Asians in her generation who immigrated here, they are kind of white supremacists, like and that was shocking to me to be like, whoa, it's not just white people who can be white supremacists. Like my mom and her friends, they have a lot of ideology in their head that is just like white is right, and they are like a pillar of what we should aim for. And so I think my mom is unlearning things too, and she watched 13th with me, and I was like, please try to understand, like let's have this conversation. And she just didn't know all of this because she didn't study American history, and even if she did, like they didn't teach us very well in school.
They did.
Yeah. And a lot of it was more or less covered up, you know. It wasn't that we weren't taught it, it was that we didn't know about it for the most part.
Yeah, but watching my mom get angry and finally understand was moving to me. And there's a moment in the documentary where it shows all of these brands that are associated with, and she was like, oh, thank God we don't use any of those brands.
My heart sank when I saw you're talking about the companies that are part of ALEC.
Yep.
Yeah.
And for those of you who haven't watched 13th, I strongly encourage you to tune in. It's on Netflix, but I do believe that Netflix made it free viewing on YouTube. And I will post a link about them. So whilst watching the 13th, I realized that there were brands that I was supporting, which I had no idea were members of ALEC. Olivia.
I didn't know what ALEC was before I watched it.
Right.
So guys, Olivia, we'll start with you. Can you sum up ALEC in a nutshell, and Elijah too?
In a nutshell, I'm gonna say, in layman's terms, I think that they have politicians in it's corporations that have politicians in their pocket. And so they're just working together to push the agenda. And it comes down to greed and money. Does that sound
that's
about right?
They help.
They establish policies that suit their needs. Yeah.
Write bills and help get bills approved, I guess. And, you know, people have been talking about get the money out of politics for a while. And it's not just, you know, campaign donations. It's this as well.
Of course, that's the systemic oppression. That's part of the violence against people.
So I
follow the money
and
you'll find out.
Yeah, exactly. And so I started going online to find out, well, who are the current members of ALEC? And I saw these brands that said they've apparently left ALEC, but have they indeed left ALEC? Because I want to know, because I don't want to support businesses that are members of ALEC. And of course we're seeing now, I mean, everyone from, I think Google was a member at one point. but they've left apparently. So but it's not, and I don't want to single out just Google because there's
Sure.
several of them,
Right.
you know. But things that I had no idea, like overstock.com even.
I know.
Oh no,
T-Mobile.
really?
No more tea rugs.
I know, T-Mobile, not that. I was like, what? But apparently they said they've all left. I just want to find a definitive source where it says that they have indeed left.
Yeah.
Because some of them have returned back or never left at all. They said they wouldn't renew their membership. But there's no, I have yet to find that. I don't know if you guys watching now, if any of you have found a list, a definitive list, please send it our way, because I think that's really important. I think right now we need to support BLM businesses and amplify, like I said, amplify melanated voices. But again, if you haven't watched the 13th, it's all in there. So 13th, Malcolm X. Any others that you guys have been watching that you thought was really useful?
We both just started White Fragility, the book.
My sister recommended that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very early into it, but yeah, I think it's like an important read, it seems, thus far.
When They See Us on Netflix, also with Ava DuVernay.
Painful.
I mean, if you're not angry watching that, then I would have to pause and walk away because I was so angry, and I found myself like cussing at these characters and just I couldn't believe, and then I couldn't believe that I couldn't believe it. You know,
Right.
it's and that's part of like a privilege that I have. So that one is really, really powerful as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think all of the platforms have a section for Black stories and created by Black people.
Specifically written or directed by people of color, and things that are specifically not protest movies, but movies about civil rights, and then others where it's just like, and here's just other movies made by people of color. My old high school teacher, Tremaine Holloway, who's Black, just tweeted the other day where he said, just a reminder that a Black person, if they're an educator, doesn't mean they're necessarily an educator in civil rights. Like they can be just a math teacher or an English teacher. People of color, all people, create stuff that isn't just about them or what they're passionate about. It's about everything.
And it's not on them. It's not on our Black brothers and sisters to do the educating.
Exactly.
It really is a choice. Ignorance is a choice. And it's so much up to us being motivated and recognizing the urgency, which is long. This is so long past due. That we have so much catching up to do, because like Ben said earlier on, I thought I knew the basics about Black history, but the more I've been reading, the more I've been learning and unlearning, the more I realize that actually there's so much that I didn't know. And that was upsetting in itself, because I feel like not only have I failed myself, I failed my Black brothers and sisters by not knowing.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's also, but it is systemic. It is systemic because I went to public school all the way in New York, and, I thought colonialism was good for a long time. That's what I was taught, and I don't know. I think there's a lot that we didn't learn, and it's not, it's never too late, but these are the systemic ways that history has been subverted. And
I have a friend.
Beginning is real.
I have a friend whose friend did a dissertation in grad school about history books across the United States, and how each state rewrites history in their own point of view. And so the civil rights movement is different in like a Texas history book versus a California history book versus a New York history book, which blows my mind, because it just, then history is subjective now. We're learning a subjective history, which is crazy and frustrating.
Isn't that spooky?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is spooky.
I mean, it's the history is written by the victors, is what the saying is, and yeah,
And
even small stuff like I just saw. It was a tweet thread of like little things, I guess, that we learned in the truth, and one was George Washington's teeth. I grew up like, he made wooden dentures. It's like some of them were wood and some were teeth from slaves.
And also, why was that in the history book? That, like, why were we learning that he had wooden teeth? Like, who cares? Let's learn about something important.
Well, hold on, real quick. To tie it back to Hamilton, I mean, what percentage of the founding fathers had slaves? I think a very high percentage.
It was so like 75% and above.
Well, that's pretty troubling. I mean, I just wonder, how do we factor that into Hamilton? Do we? I mean, because it is sort of still glorifying all of the founders, right?
Sure.
In that way, or
well, the way I see it is, I truly wasn't. I mean, we know that the history, the actual history of it, it's problematic. But I'm looking at Hamilton as Hamilton and a piece of art that gave people of color voices and a chance to play white historical figures. And I just brought tears to my eyes and sent chills down my spine. It made me so happy that these people were given a voice and that they're the best of the best. They're so talented, and there's no one who can be like, well, they only got that role because they're Black or they were Hispanic. Like, no, they got it because they are the best.
Yeah.
Truth.
I just love that show as a vessel for people of color.
Yeah, and I agree with you that and I think Lynn talked about, I remember watching, I think it was a 60 Minutes kind of behind the scenes on it, and all the actors and how they worked on it, and Lynn and how they wrote it. And there was a bit on, I can't remember the actor's name that plays George Washington, but he went
Christopher something. Christopher. I'm blanking on his
I keep
name.
wanting to say Christopher Lee, but it's not Chris Lee.
It's not Chris Lee.
But the actor went to Mount Vernon and toured, his estate. And he was saying how like he had to wrestle with the fact that he was a Black man playing a slave owner, and how wrestling with that kind of idea was difficult. But he, I think, again, kind of like what you were saying, Olivia, is almost every character in that is already flawed. I mean, Hamilton openly cheats on his wife with, spoilers, sorry if you haven't seen Hamilton yet, but they were playing, sorry. Someone was waiting, they're saying, I'm going to watch Hamilton for the first time after Tea with Karen, and then there it goes. But
sorry, love, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say it's dealing with that, and also it's kind of the story of Hamilton, and it talks often about his fights against slavery. He and John Lawrence, who were writing essays and trying to raise the first Black battalion and stuff like that. And it didn't focus too much on that, I think, because that wasn't the story Lynn was trying to tell. But also, like you were saying, they were giving people of color a chance to play those roles that, I mean, when would you ever have seen a Black George Washington other than in like a parody or something?
It goes back to representation matters, which I think I saw Ali today retweeting that young Asian girl who recognizes herself in the video.
In Philippa.
And that is a great, perfect example of why representation matters, is because you need to see, when I think of a hero, to this day, it's still hard for me to not think of a Matt Damon looking like
right.
And that's important. We need to see more of it. And I like that here we got a little Elijah, you're Asian for now, right? In this group, we're letting you in, right, guys? I mean, come on.
I just got my Asian card.
I don't think I have the right to give it to you, but I'm giving you like
we're brothers
like
and
10
sisters
free.
in
You
this
get a free
global
sandwich
family.
after 10.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Pick me up.
I mean, when I no, you go.
Go ahead.
Just to speak more on what Ben was saying of imagining the hero in his head, I still have trouble. Like when I first saw myself on Legacies, I was very confused because I just am not so used to seeing people who look like me on screen. So it was not, I wasn't looking at it like
you.
not alone, let alone actually me. But it wasn't only because it's like, whoa, that's me. It was like, whoa, that's an Asian. Like I still zero in on all of the Asians in anything that I watch. I'm like, oh, please be good, please be good, please be good. So that no one's or like when I'm reading a book and they're not specifying the race of a character, I still imagine them as all white in my head.
Right.
And that I want that
totally,
to change.
Yes. And that's segueing into this topic of, you know, talking about representation and making sure that moving forward, especially in our industry, that stories from people of color are being told. I feel like that's more important now more than ever as well, because it's a reflection actually of what real life is.
Yeah.
You know, diversity shouldn't be a trend. Diversity is something that just is. That is the world that we live in. We live in a naturally diverse global community, and those stories need to be told on TV. I remember I was in a car. Actually, it was for Legacies. I was in a casting when I was going in for Emma, and I saw all these really beautiful young women, and all of us looked completely different from each other, which is wonderful. But there's this one lovely, beautiful blonde, blue-eyed girl that was sitting opposite me, and she was looking at me and she smiled, and she said to me, "I wish I was you." And I looked at her and I said, "Well, what do you mean?"
I think I know where this is going.
Me too.
She said, it's, you know, diversity is the thing now, and, you know, I wish I looked like you. I laughed, and I really had to take everything in. You could just imagine my mind was like spinning.
Whoa.
And I know she meant well. However, what she said didn't come out.
Yeah.
No, correct.
It was like
I don't even know if she meant well,
like Ben said.
Well, she
For
was
sure.
being, her tone implied that she was trying to mean well, but the, you know, implicit biases and all that started kicking in, and I looked at her and I said, "Well, why would you say that? Really? Do you know what you just said?" And she said, "Yeah." She said, "I do know." She said, I can't get any jobs right now." And I said, "Oh dear." And I said, "Let's call her Anne for the sake. Her name's Anne. Not Karen."
I think of you every time I see one of those headlines, Karen. I feel so bad.
We need to unpack that too, but let's.
So we'll call her Anne. And so I looked at Anne. I said, "Anne, let me tell you something. Growing up, it's what Olivia said. Growing up, I had no one really to look up to on TV that was part Chinese, because I'm part Chinese and part Indian. So forget that, let alone seeing an Asian or a South Asian, a full South Asian or a full Asian on TV. I never had that growing up, except for Jasmine in Aladdin. You know, maybe some characters here, but hardly. My Barbies were all blonde and blue-eyed. There wasn't any Barbie of color at that time when I was growing up. So I was trying to explain to Anne, I said, I have waited, you know, I started acting as a child. I've waited my whole life to just be included, to be part of an inclusive community. And I said, you don't know what that's like to walk into castings. And this is when I was first starting out, even as a teenager. And I'd walk into some castings, and I kid you not, the questions that I got asked, "What are you?" "What do you mean? Well, what are you?" "Well, I'm a girl. I'm a human." I'm gonna know, but where are you from? And then I would say, well, I was born in India, but I'm Chinese, I'm Indian, I'm Canadian, I'm British. They're like, oh, okay, but your name, did you change your name? Because that's not a name. You don't look like someone who should have a name like Karen David. And I know that they're not rude about it. I haven't encountered that, the tone, but nonetheless, they're asking those questions. It doesn't happen now, but I get asked those questions all the time. Like, well, what are you? And about my name. And then, and I was trying to explain all of this to Anne and to say that I've waited for this moment to happen, and it shouldn't be a moment. It should just be, like I told you guys, a reflection of what's happening in life. And she didn't know what to say. She's like, well, I still think it's easier for you. It's like,
oh yeah,
Wow.
white privilege.
Just right back to ground zero with her.
I was like,
Wow.
I mean,
you know,
Defensive.
I didn't want to take anything away because she was about to go in for her audition. But
well, I mean, it wasn't about. Anne didn't have it. Okay.
Yeah.
Clearly, Anne wasn't right for Emma for other reasons.
Yeah. Not just because of the way she looks.
Yeah.
Good
Lord, I'm sorry that happened. That's awful.
And I'm glad that we're able to have these conversations, because I'm not going to lie, guys, like growing up, like we're told you're a girl, you're a woman of color. You've got to be very careful what you say. This is, I feel like I'm having an exorcism of things that have happened. And it feels so good to have these open conversations, but it's also even highlighted even more what our Black brothers and sisters have gone through, because they've had it so much more worse.
For sure.
Yeah. So it is uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable.
And something you said earlier, Olivia, about when you see an Asian actor in a movie and you're like zeroing in on them and you're like, please be good. Don't give us a bad name or whatever you might be thinking. That reminded me of something. One of the pastors at my church has a podcast, and a few of their episodes, they've talked about different cultures or kind of societies that they're not a part of. And they did a specific episode about Islam and what does Islam mean, both the word and the religion. And it was him, who's a pastor at a non-denominational Christian church, someone who had a white Christian man with a degree in Islamic studies, and I believe one other person. But they said at the beginning, we specifically didn't want to bring a Muslim person on our podcast because we didn't want them to be the Muslim for our listeners. We didn't want them to have to defend their entire religion, all of their beliefs, everything,
to carry it all on them.
Exactly. And I think that is why when we say representation matters, is if more people are represented, then it's not just the one person that is the representer, I guess.
Exactly.
It doesn't just live and die on that one person, but instead if many people from those different groups are in the spotlight or have a voice, a louder voice, then it doesn't just fall on the one person. And if they say something wrong, boy, are they out.
Yeah. I mean, I think every Asian person was holding their breath when Crazy Rich Asians came out, because we were like, we're really excited, but if this isn't good, they might not give us another one ever again. And so thank God it made all of that money, and it was such a hit.
It was so good.
It was so good. I mean, I ate it
I
up.
cry every time at the wedding. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then just seeing Michelle Yeoh be Tiger Mom.
Yeah.
It's just, thank God it was good, but there was a lot writing on that.
A lot of pressure on that movie.
For all of those actors and the director and the creators of like, oh my God, if this doesn't go well, it's my fault, and I might completely end representation for Asians right here.
Right, exactly.
But thank goodness, like what a wonderful way to present in pop culture. and have such massive universal appeal. It warmed my heart to see moments when they were learning how to make dumplings. That's stuff that I learned with my grandma. And you know, my you know, it reminded me of my Chinese grandfather, who was a terrific Chinese chef, and would, you know, those little things just warmed my heart so much to see things like that. I'm doing an animation show, Mirror Royal Detective, which is a full all South Asian cast. And again, to know that young girls and boys from all backgrounds can just watch and learn so much about, you know, South Asian culture. It's just such a wonderful thing.
So kids won't go to school with their lunches from home and it looks foreign, and then people are like, ew, what are you eating? No, I've seen that on TV. Mira was eating that.
And that's exactly, I think when I was going to school, people would be like, ew, what's that? Your lunch, it smells. It's like, because I'd either bring, now I realize I had it so good growing up. Mom,
God.
Why would I want to eat a
Indian
Lunchable?
food every day, right? I had that every day. And now that I don't live at home anymore, I'm like, damn, I miss that good home cooking from Mama, Papa. And I was just like, oh, I miss it so much. We had it so good. I'm going to move on to Legacies now, guys.
Legacies, the reason we're all together.
Yeah, now. And that's one thing I love
nice
about
shirt,
Legacies.
Elijah.
Oh, I want one.
Thank you.
I want one too.
This is from oh shoot, what's the Vampire Stalkers in Covington, the Vampire Diaries Legacy store and originals.
Love it. I love it. But that's one thing I love about our show, is that we are all a part of this wonderful community and this family, which is so diverse. And I feel like we're one big family, which is why we miss each other dreadfully right now, especially.
Yeah.
But there've been a lot of Q&As that came in for you guys, so I'm gonna fire off some of them to you.
Before you ask questions, Karen, can I hear how everyone's audition process was for Legacies? Because I love hearing the behind the scenes stuff like this.
Funny that you asked that, because that was a fan question.
Oh,
so, perfect.
Well, perfect. Kicked it off. Go ahead.
Elijah.
Who's doing
Wants it?
Go,
Yeah,
Elijah.
Mine, I did a self-tape standing right there. And
Lucky wall.
yeah, well, so I did it, and my buddy Joe, who's in film school, kind of, I guess, directed me or whatever, and we did it, and it didn't, I wasn't happy with it, but I thought, might as well just send it, even if it's not perfect. But then I thought better of it and went to my acting coach, and I said, hey, are you free for like half an hour? And he said, yeah, I've got just half an hour. And we went and did a couple takes, and that was all she wrote.
Do you remember what your sides were?
Oh yeah, it was when I was stepping up to volunteer to be quarterback in the football game, in the flag football game. But it was actually like in the sides, it was a longer scene where, you know, I think I make like an empowered speech, and then it cuts off there. But it sounds like I was going to be a quarterback after that, but I don't know if they ended up changing it or if they did that just to show
they do burner
a wider
sides.
range.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was that.
You're so Wade. You are Wade.
Yeah.
You know?
That's why it was so easy. Like showing up, there's some roles that I'll play where I'm like, okay, get into character or think like that. But with Wade, I'm just like, nah, it's pretty much me in high school.
Yeah. So it was just the one tape, and then you booked it?
One tape and then I booked it. Yeah.
Incredible.
But I actually did audition for it a year before, because they had been trying to write Wade into the show since season 1. And so I auditioned for it a year ago, and I was originally a vampire. I was going to be MG's roommate, but then they couldn't fit it in.
That would have been hysterical.
Right? And I completely forgotten about it until I was like driving somewhere after I had finished the audition, and I was with my buddy Joe, and I was looking at my email. I was like, who is this casting director? Like, let me see if I've auditioned for them before. And I was like, oh, I did for the same show last year, and I'd just forgotten about it.
You would have been the sweetest vampire. the sweetest, most kind, conscientious, thoughtful.
You would have been like
vampire.
a vegetarian vampire.
I
You
know,
wouldn't
yeah,
even
like, I
wanted
don't
the
even-
animal blood.
I don't
Yes.
exactly.
A vegan vampire.
Those
Yeah.
poor animals, like, oh,
Yeah.
can we like make vegan blood
Yeah.
or something? Oh,
What about you,
What about
Ben?
you, Ben? Oh,
Me?
James.
Okay. Well, I auditioned for Raphael a bunch in LA. So I did multiple auditions for that. And then I auditioned for Caleb's character. And then I was in New York and I did like my final couple auditions for Raphael again. And then lastly, I did a Jet audition. So it was like they were kind of like just letting me continue.
They were
come
trying to
in, I
find
guess.
the good piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were like,
So it was
we
cool.
like
I
this
mean,
dude. We need to
Yeah,
find the
I
right
think
spot for him.
I mean, to me, the lesson is, you throw your hat in the ring, and I don't know, you never know where it's going to shake up. And I certainly felt more like a Raphael at the time, but I've learned to love Jed's aggressive, troubled ways. And
And he's also a
you know,
softie.
Yeah.
he's a softie at heart, because remember, hurt people hurt people.
Exactly.
So underneath is something. And
Well, he's very
while
sweet and romantic. He proposed
Yeah,
to Emma.
especially with Emma.
I still think Jed and Emma should have. I'd like to see that spinoff.
I
Karen,
don't
can you-
know
make-
that
Maybe.
we should.
Yeah, because
promote
aren't
the
you
teacher's
canonically
student.
like
Jet-
17?
No. Jed might have been left back more times than the show let on. I could be a lot. We don't know. I'm a super duper senior. Look at me.
I mean, look, Emma would have been so lucky. I mean, when we were filming that scene when Ben was proposing, you guys don't understand how hard it was not to be keeling over with
Yeah.
the cutest
That was
laughter.
That was a great. I love doing that scene. That was so fun.
That was such a lovely day.
It was
Just
honest.
Karen, how was
Same
auditioning
with
for
the-
you 2 years? 2 years ago? How long was it?
So yeah, it was for season 1, and I was told that Emma was American, so I walked into the audition with my full-on American, all ready to go, and it went really well. But then you just kind of want to go into each meeting having a fun experience and no expectations, just giving it your best. That's all you can hope for, And I was about to leave, and the guys at casting were like, no, can you come back in, Karen, for a second? I said, yeah, sure. They said, can we just do that in an English accent? And I was like, oh, whoa. I mean, absolutely. But when you're so fixated on a voice being American, and then to switch back, even if it is your normal voice, it's kind of a mind game.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, just give me 2 seconds to just sound this out.
Yeah.
To
remember how I talk.
Yeah, a British accent, because I feel like when I'm talking with an American accent, a lot changes. Like my physicality,
even your
everything.
mannerisms. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So to find Emma's voice within a British accent, my accent, I needed a few minutes, but we did it, and it was then that casting was saying, well, I think we're going to send both of them in, not just the American. So I didn't know whether Emma was going to be American or British until a couple of days before I started to shoot. So I was like, wait, because I was, I was so excited when I was cast, but I had all these ideas and notes, but it just slightly changes if it's, one accent or the other. But I was so excited because I thought, my gosh, I'm walking into this universe that's so beloved. And I just thought, wow, I just love that, they described Emma as being this backbone that everyone could run to in moments of trauma or heartbreak.
Or
Totally
whatever.
unlike you in real life. Like,
but it's such an honor to play a character like that. And I'm so grateful for the show because I've met such amazing people like you and have made friends for life. So I'm really grateful. What about you, Olivia?
My audition for Alyssa, my very first audition for Legacies was for Penelope, and it was the worst audition I've ever done in my entire life. I was so nervous. It was one of my very first auditions, period, like with an agent and like being signed. as a serious actor. So I went in and I was completely nervous and forgot half the words, was shaking the entire time. And they were like, and thank you. And I was like, okay, bye. And so I blocked that out from my memory because I was like, I'm so embarrassed. They're never going to cast me in anything ever. And then a year later, I went in for Alyssa Chang and I was sitting in that office and I was like, why does this place feel familiar to me? And I was like, oh, right, this is where I bombed. And then I was like, but I'm so much better than I was when I did the Penelope audition. So I kind of went in to doing Alyssa and I was just like, I don't even care. Like, I know that I'm a more improved actor now. And so the pressure was off. And so did that one, did a second audition, a callback where they made me do the yoga cell scene. And so I was doing yoga in my callback. And I was in there for like 25 minutes, just like back bending and talking. And when I got it, I was at a Chinese restaurant. I had just opened a fortune cookie and it said, your future is looking prosperous or something like that. And then my agent called, and I don't believe in that kind of stuff, but like that Chinese restaurant is my lucky restaurant now. And I cried and
you've got to trust the cookies. Trust the cookies.
Trust the cookies. They don't lie.
The fortune cookies and the tea leaves.
Yep.
You know when you have the tea bags and it has like a little message?
Yeah.
No, I
Very
don't.
wise.
Is that a thing? Am I buying the wrong tea?
Yeah.
Elijah,
you could be getting your fortune told.
Leave it with me. I'll send you some tea. All
Thank
good.
you, please.
Hey, it just occurred to me to say that I like Elijah's beard. I just so envious that I mean, honestly, like I finally got some of my, you can't see it now because I just shaved, but I just wanted, it just occurred to me to say that. I really like
well, this is just
it's
called,
a great beard.
I'm not working at the moment. Let's see how long. I mean, I've got my hair in a ponytail right now.
Hey,
I mean,
so
Ben's got a ponytail back there,
oh my
too.
God.
Oh, you
and I'm not proud of it. I'm not proud of it, but check it out.
Can we just do, can I do this for the rest of the,
Is that your pandemic hair? It's very cool. Your
no,
pandemic hair,
straight up.
beard.
Yeah.
I mean, at
All
first
of my
it started with, you know, I'm not working, might as well grow it out. And then I started getting tired of it. And as soon as I heard that the barbershops and whatnot were reopening, I was like, oh, I can get my hair cut. And then we had another large tick. And I was like, you know what? I don't mind using a little extra shampoo. That's fine.
Now you've got a little poof going on up there, looking a little like a woolly mammoth.
Well, Karen, what other questions you got for us?
Okay, so legacies.tribrid asks, favorite thing about playing your character? Let's start with Ben.
Favorite thing about playing my character? I guess I like the idea of playing a repressed person because, I mean, I think it'd be almost, how do I say this? It's nice having secrets, you know, and I think Jed is definitely laden with secrets that we perhaps haven't seen yet on the show. So I like the sort of faux macho is what I think of it as, like, you know, underneath it is that there is some pain, but I like that it's this kind of chest out bravado, but it's not totally sincere. So that for me is fun. Also, like, you know, I mean, Jed just wants to he wants the rules followed. And I think I can get behind. I like that he's an enforcer of the rules. And, you know, I have my own backstory in my head that I haven't revealed. I think I'm the son of like of a corrupt politician. That's what I think.
And I mean, let's talk about Ben's best day on set, which was we had the same call time for our scene where we just had to make out. So he made out with me for an hour and a half and then left set. That was all he had to do that day.
Jeez, you're right.
What's my to-do list for the day?
You know what?
It's a hard check.
It's a hard job.
Oh, it's a hard job.
Yeah. It's a hard.
Hi, Milo.
Milo?
Hi, Milo.
We should bring Milo into Legacies of Salvatore.
Oh,
yes,
please.
For sure.
Yeah.
So photogenic.
He's the new alpha leader. He's the new pack leader.
Yeah, good. He grows.
What about you guys?
He grows a good beard and hair. You know. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
I digress. You guys, Olivia. What
I
about you? Favorite thing about
love
playing Alyssa?
being a bitch. um,
Do it so well.
I'm so non-confrontational in my real life, and I'm like, I hate hurting people's feelings. I would never, ever, ever say any of the mean things that Alyssa says to people. So because of that, I have some repression, some anger that is within me that I don't often let out. So being Alyssa gives me an outlet to be a big old mean girl, and it's fun.
I know, playing characters that are so completely your opposite.
Yeah, it's so fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. What about you, Elijah?
And then me, who I'm literally Wade is me in high school. Jump back in time about 10 years and you're looking at Wade. But my favorite thing about him, I mean, you know, at first I liked that all of my scenes were funny, you know, I was always in there just for a laugh for something. But I really love what they did with Wade in episode 10 when I come out as a fairy, literally. And, you know, I got a lot of messages on Instagram and on Twitter of people saying like they connect with that. Like, you know, I'm not very popular, or people kind of make fun of me or forget my name or whatever. And then to have this character that's kind of made fun of, his name is forgotten, all this stuff. And at the end, everyone's chanting his name and he takes down the bad guy was so cool. That something felt completed in me, I guess. And as well as just the novelty of being the only fairy on the show. Like, we don't know if any other fairies exist, and I think that's pretty neat.
That's exciting.
The penultimate fairy.
Penultimate. Oh, that's gonna haunt me for the rest of my life.
It is. No, one of the Legacies writers is watching this and they're like,
Yeah.
what if?
See, I was secretly putting it out there,
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
you know, to open up
Karen,
this whole other new world.
What about you and Emma? How do you feel about her?
What I love about Emma, oh gosh, I love her commitment and her commitment to caring so much about the well-being of all the students at Salvatore. I love that she cares so much about Alaric and Dorian.
Yeah.
Demetrius, Matt. I've had so much fun playing that triangle between her being in love with two guys. That was a lot of fun. And then when Jed came in and proposed, that was funny because that kind of
Two guys and one boy.
I know.
One young boy. No, wait. Sorry, no. Wait.
You're a young adult, okay?
I'm a young. Hey, you know what? Scratch
Oh,
it.
Karen, caught in that
Until
love
he was-
triangle
until he
between
was-
two men and one boy. I feel like
I
that's
didn't mean to say that.
that's a
Guys,
different
that's another
conversation.
show.
That's no.
Different show.
Jed was under
Stars.
the influence of Cupid's arrow, so
Yes.
then again we all were, so it brought out a lot of interesting truths out. But no, I very much love that Emma just cares so much, and she puts herself last. She puts everyone else first to make sure that everyone else is safe. And I love that she's there for each and every one of the characters. It's allowed me to be able to have scenes with all of you guys, which I love. Ben, do you remember in season 1? And a lot of you guys don't know this. Ben and I had a scene in the beginning. Do you remember? And it got cut, and I was so I was so gutted.
I was so bummed too about that scene. I attacked you, actually. Can I say that here? I guess I did.
You can.
Yeah.
You say that here.
Yeah, it was a whole, no, that was a troubled side, a sadder side of Jed that never came out there, and they didn't really run with that. But yeah, it was about, I felt bullied and alone. So I then lashed out at Emma, who was trying to protect me and sort of care for me.
Oh, I would have loved to see that.
That was
happened
such
in
a
that scene?
great scene. I love that.
I would have
so much.
loved to have seen Ben attack you.
Attack Karen.
He did, and there are like these marks. I have a picture. I'll post it. There was this. picture.
Oh, it
please
was a
do.
real.
Oh.
Oh yeah, you had that.
You should have gone to the prison world then.
Yeah. I'm glad they cut that out. That would be a little hard for your character to come back from as a good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. No, I think in the end that they
Emma-
made me a little nicer.
Yeah. But I also think that if that scene was included, Emma always believes in redemption for everyone.
That's true.
So
That's true.
she's never going to give up on any of the characters, which is what I love about Emma. That despite darkness and what, especially in the journey with Alyssa, she doesn't want to give up on Alyssa. She cares so much about her. She's not going to give up on this student or any of the students. So. Okay, one more question before we wrap. Guys, this is so fun.
I'm having so much fun.
Favorite episode to shoot, and that is from I hope I pronounce your name right, at Aib Hemaranks. There we go. I'm sticking with that. favorite episode to shoot. Who wants to go first?
I have to think about this one.
Yeah. I mean,
should I tell you my?
Oh, yeah, you start. You start. No, give me time to think.
So my favorite episode, tough one because we're spoiled for choice. Season 1, I absolutely had so much fun with the slug episode.
that was so hilarious.
Much fun. You mean wasn't that the one where you kissed both Dorian and Alaric?
Well, no, I don't think I kissed Dorian. Oh,
it was
no,
just
that
Alaric?
was one that was just like a pack, whatever.
Right.
But it was like full on with Alaric. I love the fact that Emma she's kind of naughty in that episode. I loved it.
He's got some repressed
I just thought,
stuff.
Yeah, she's letting her hair down and she's like, come on, let's skip school and let's go and have some fun. And I love that. And I loved seeing Alaric in that,
that outfit.
And without abandonment. And it was a lot of fun. I love that so much. And the talent show and all that. It was so fantastic. That was my favorite in season 1. Season 2, I loved the film noir episode.
I'm so jelly beans of that episode.
Yeah, that was a sweet looking episode.
It was so magical, and just you felt like you were being transported into time. And I just love that they could bring this genre to our show, and it appeals to all the younger viewers, so they get to know it. Like a lot of people now wanted to get to know more about film noir, and I love that it sparked that interest. So those are my favorites. Okay, what about you, Elijah?
I mean, mine is probably the fairy episode 1 because, I really like that episode, but also I just love the fairy wings. They were really cool to wear and walk around on or with. They got heavy after a while, but it was still, I would look when we're standing on the staircase and we have all the other students, I would just kind of look over at some of the students standing by and they'd all just kind of be peeking up at my wings because they were giant. But I also really enjoyed the first one I did, which was the football game. And that was my first day of filming. We were out on the football field and it was very hot. And that was kind of rough, but it was also my first day on set. So it just holds a special kind of place, I guess. But then also for an episode that we started filming but weren't able to finish, that we'll hopefully get to see in season 3 or later or early next year, I guess. And Ben and Olivia, I know you two were in this when we were again out in a field. We were outside late at night. That episode was really fun. And so I guess that's a little tease for next season, but I really liked because that was also we just had so much time hanging out, us as cast members, because we would be filming during the day and then kind of having to wait until it got dark. So
I can't wait to drop that BTS video. You know what I'm talking about.
I was just gonna say.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I know. I feel like my favorite episode is actually yet to be finished completing because I was on the verge of doing something really fun. But for me, I think it was the last thing that you out there saw, which was the sing-off with me and Chris Lee.
Oh my fun
because I'm always naturally competing with Chris because he's just a force to be reckoned with, and it's just an incredible singer. And so for me to try to harmonize with him, That's the closest to self-work I'll ever do.
And
so the comedy flowed out, and I just had a blast doing that.
Let me return Ben's compliment of my beard when for that episode, both when he was singing and when we were filming the our favorite memory of Lizzie. Ben would, he would deliver his line and then he would be singing with Chris, and the dude is so humble. He would be like, "Was that funny? Was that? I didn't feel like that." And it was like, dude, you're the best part of you're cracking up the director, all of us. And he was just always like, "I don't know if that was," and we're like, "No, you killed." Yeah. Watching you film the sing off was so
I wish
hard
I was
to keep
on
a
set
straight
that
face.
day.
Yeah, me too. So
the final
charming.
cut.
Thanks, Elijah. Thank you.
Yeah.
The final cut where we see Chris come into the microphone and start singing, and then you see Jed, Ben give him a side eye and then start to sing louder. It kills me every single time I see it. Just that
was
side
all
eye.
real, baby. All real. Oh yeah. I was like, "What are you doing, man? You're making me look stupid in front of the whole school."
Oh, yeah. So good. It was
it's so good.
Olivia, what about you, love?
Oh, mine.
Yours was probably the swim pool episode, right?
Oh,
right, when it was 40 degrees outside. That was actually really fun. That episode was crazy because we had one of our producers come up to me in the trailer, and every time someone comes up to me, I think I'm gonna get fired.
Same.
Yeah, like if someone important walks up to me, I'm like, "Oh no, what did I do?" And she was like, "So can you dive?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Do you need to practice?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." So then I had to practice diving. And then she came back to me and she was like, "Can you do yoga? Can you do a back bend?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then every time I saw her from that point on, I was expecting her to ask something more of me. And I was fully prepared to do whatever I needed to do for the show.
We could keep doing this for like another hour.
Be the rest of my life.
Well, let's just do it. Ben, what are you up to?
Well, let's do a sequel. I actually do have to go. I got to pack. I'm going camping tomorrow. I've got a lot of
so
stuff to organize.
Ben, you go pack. Elijah, I miss you.
Miss you guys. I can't. I literally can't.
Thanks for having me on here, guys. It was so good to see you.
It's so good. Do you guys want to say any last things to the gang watching?
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah.
Thanks
and honestly,
for being
we
a
really
really
appreciate
cool
all
fan base.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I love interacting with you guys
ever.
on Twitter. You guys are so kind and generous and loving, and truly this show made my dreams come true, and I'm grateful not only to the show but to the people who watch the show. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And guys,
thank you, Karen, for drinking tea every week and making this great show. I love watching it.
We'll do this again. This is if it can make our followers and our community of followers just smile and feel good about themselves and know that they're not alone in everything that's going on right now, then I think that's all we can ask for, right? So Thank you guys for tuning in, and a big special shout out to Jessica Sharif, who has kindly put this all together. Love you, Jess. Thank you so much. And
thanks,
guys,
great seeing you. Cheers.
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 See you guys soon. Bye.